Hello and welcome dear students. Today we will discuss an important plant hormone known as abscisic acid. In this lecture, following aspects of abscisic acid will be discussed: history of discovery, biosynthesis of abscisic acid and mechanism of action. First, history of discovery. Abscisic acid was first identified and chemically characterized in California by Frederick T. Endicott and his co-workers in 1963, who were studying compounds responsible for abscission of cotton fruits. During their study, they came across two compounds, abscessin first, which is less active, and abscessin second, which is more active, which they suggested were responsible for abscission of cotton fruits. Later on, abscessin second came to be known as abscisic acid. In the same year, two other research groups led separately by Philip F. Waring and R. F. M. van Steenwyk identified dormin and lupin to be responsible for dormancy and abscission in Acer pseudoplantanus and Lupinus luteus respectively. In 1964, it became evident that dormin and the lupin compound were identical to abscessin second, and in the same year, physiologists agreed to call the compound abscisic acid. Abscisic acid appears to be universal among vascular plants. Besides, it's also present in some mosses, green algae and fungi, but not in bacteria. This class of plant growth regulators is composed of one chemical compound normally produced in the leaves of plants originating from chloroplasts, especially when plants are under stress. In general, it acts as an inhibitory chemical compound that affects bud growth and seed and bud dormancy. It mediates change within the apical meristem, causing bud dormancy and the alteration of the last set of leaves into protective bud covers. Since it was found in freshly abscised leaves, it was thought to play a role in the processes of natural leaf drop, but further research has disproven this. In plant species from temperate parts of the world, it plays a role in leaf and seed dormancy by inhibiting growth, but as it is dissipated from seeds or buds, growth begins. In other plants, as abscisic acid levels decrease, growth then commences as gibberellin levels increase. Without abscisic acid, buds and seeds would start to grow during warm periods in winter and be killed when it froze again. Since abscisic acid dissipates slowly from the tissues and its effects take time to be offset by other plant hormones, there is a delay in physiological pathways that provide some protection from premature growth. It accumulates within seeds during first maturation, preventing seed germination within the fruit or seed germination before winter. Abscisic acid's effects are degraded within the plant tissues during cold temperatures or by its removal by water washing in out of the tissues, releasing the seeds and buds from dormancy. Now, biosynthesis of abscisic acid. Since the discovery of abscisic acid in the early 1960s, much effort has been devoted to understanding how abscisic acid is synthesized. The pathway of biosynthesis of abscisic acid in higher plants is understood in detail through genetic and biochemical studies. Recently, all the major genes for the enzymes in the biosynthetic pathway have been identified. Abscisic acid is a 15-carbon sesquiterpenoid synthesized partly in chloroplasts and other plastids through the mevalonic acid pathway. So, it can be concluded that biosynthesis occurs primarily in the leaves. The production of abscisic acid is accentuated by stresses such as water loss and freezing temperatures. Abscisic acid synthesis results from the breakdown of carotenoids through following reactions: oxidative cleavage of a C40 carotenoid precursor, namely geranyl pyrophosphate, to C40 acyclic carotenoid phytoene, and then to lycopene by a series of desaturation and isomerization of the central double bond. Lycopene is then converted to beta-carotene by lycopene beta cyclase, and beta-carotene is oxidized by beta-carotene hydroxylase to zeaxanthin and then to violaxanthin. Violaxanthin is in turn converted to the C40 compound 9-cis-neoxanthin, which is then cleaved to form the C15 compound xanthoxyl, previously called xanthoxane, a neutral growth inhibitor that has physiological properties similar to those of abscisic acid. The cleavage is catalyzed by 9-cis-epoxycarotenoid dioxygenase. Finally, xanthoxyl is converted to abscisic acid via oxidative steps involving the intermediates abscisic acid aldehyde or possibly xanthoxic acid. This final step is catalyzed by a family of aldehyde oxidases. Now, mechanism of abscisic acid action. Abscisic acid is involved in short-term physiological effects, for example, stomatal closure, as well as long-term developmental processes, for example, seed maturation. Rapid physiological responses frequently involve alterations in the fluxes of ions across membranes and may involve some gene regulation as well. And long-term processes inevitably involve major changes in the pattern of gene expression. Signal transduction pathways, which amplify the primary signal generated when the hormone binds to its receptor, are required for both the short-term and the long-term effects of abscisic acid. Studies have revealed that abscisic acid signal perception occurs both extracellularly and intracellularly, primarily thought to be mediated by phospholipids. But it's now widely assumed that proteins act as abscisic acid receptors. These proteins, namely 2C protein phosphatases, act by negatively regulating abscisic acid responses. Taken together, these results indicate that extracellular perception of abscisic acid can prevent stomatal opening and regulate gene expression, and intracellular abscisic acid can both induce stomatal closure and inhibit the potassium ion in current required for opening. Now, abscisic acid and stomatal behavior. Stomata play a critical role in regulating the supply of atmospheric carbon dioxide for photosynthesis and in preventing an excessive water loss via transpiration. Stomatal closure is driven by a reduction in guard cell turgor pressure caused by a massive long-term efflux of potassium anion from the cell. During the subsequent shrinkage of the cell due to water loss, the surface area of the plasma membrane may contract by as much as 50%. Stomatal pore opening or closing is regulated by a variety of signals: carbon dioxide, humidity, red and blue light, and plant hormones like abscisic acid and auxins, abscisic acid being more effective. The first changes detected after exposure of guard cells to abscisic acid are transient membrane depolarization caused by the net influx of positive charge and transient increases in the cytosolic calcium concentration. Stimulation of influx of calcium occurs via a pathway that uses reactive oxygen species such as hydrogen peroxide or superoxide as secondary messengers, leading to plasma membrane channel activation. Calcium release from intracellular stores can be induced by a variety of second messengers including inositol 1,4,5 trisphosphate, cyclic ADP ribose, and self-amplifying calcium release. Abscisic acid stimulates nitric oxide synthesis in guard cells, which induces stomatal closure in a Cadper-dependent manner, indicating that nitric oxide acts as a secondary messenger in this response pathway. Experiments conducted in this regard have shown that an increase in cytosolic calcium is responsible for abscisic acid induced stomatal closure. Abscisic acid is able to induce stomatal closure even in guard cells that show no increase in cytosolic calcium, indicating calcium independent pathway, which is as follows. First, abscisic acid binds to its receptor. Abscisic acid binding induces the formation of reactive oxygen species which activate plasma membrane calcium channels. Abscisic acid increases the levels of cyclic ADP ribose and inositol 1,4,5 trisphosphate, which activate additional calcium channels on the tonoplast. The influx of calcium initiates intracellular calcium oscillations and promotes the further release from vacuoles. The rise in intracellular calcium blocks potassium ion in channels. The rise in intracellular calcium promotes the opening of chloride out channels on the plasma membrane, causing membrane depolarization. The plasma membrane proton pump is inhibited by the abscisic acid induced increase in cytosolic calcium and a rise in intracellular pH, further depolarizing the membrane. Membrane depolarization activates potassium out channels. Potassium ion and anions to be released across the plasma membrane are first released from vacuoles into the cytosol. Now, role of abscisic acid in environmental stress. Abscisic acid increases the tolerance level of plants to various kinds of stresses caused by environmental or biotic factors. Water deficit caused by a combination of low soil moisture level and water loss by transpiration is one of the most common stresses experienced by plants. Even plants growing in areas of abundant annual rainfall and moderate temperatures are exposed periodically to water deficit. For example, plants growing in mesophytic climates are subjected to certain and unexpected periods of drought with an attendant danger of dehydration. Plants cope with this problem by increasing the levels of endogenous abscisic acid quickly, which in turn leads to closure of stomata to prevent water loss. And to synthesize special proteins and compatible osmolytes that protect cellular membranes and macromolecules from damaging effects of dehydration. Other stresses may be due to excessive salt content in the soil, that is salinity, heat, attack by pathogens and pests, and formation of reactive oxygen species when growing under low oxygen tension. Salinity lowers the free water content of the soil, thus making it less available to roots and causing what is known as physiological drought. Freezing also lowers the free water potential. Ice formation usually occurs in the extracellular spaces and results in loss of intracellular water causing dehydrative damage. Now, role of abscisic acid in seed germination. Seed germination is defined as the sum of events that begin with hydration of the seed and culminate in emergence of the embryonic axis, usually the radicle, from the seed coat. Two hormones, gibberellins and abscisic acid, play contrasting roles in seed germination. Gibberellins promote it, whereas abscisic acid inhibits it. Seeds of different harvests vary in their abscisic acid content and in general show a good correlation between their abscisic acid content and their ability to germinate. When immature embryos are removed from their seeds and placed in culture midway through development before the onset of dormancy, they germinate precociously, that is, without passing through the normal dormant stage of development. Abscisic acid added to the culture medium inhibits precocious germination. This results in combination with the fact that the level of endogenous abscisic acid is high during mid to late seed development, suggesting that abscisic acid is the natural constraint that keeps developing embryos in their embryogenic state. The manner in which abscisic acid inhibits seed germination is not understood. For some seeds, for example, rapeseed, it has been suggested that abscisic acid prevents wall loosening or enhances the threshold for wall loosening in cells of the radicle, although a specific effect on any of the wall loosening enzymes has not been demonstrated. Other suggestions include an interaction between endogenous abscisic acid and water potential difference between the seed and the ambient medium. Apparently, the higher the potential difference, the lesser the sensitivity to abscisic acid. Lastly, the role of abscisic acid in bud dormancy. Abscisic acid was originally suggested as the dormancy-inducing hormone because it accumulates in dormant buds and decreases after the tissue is exposed to low temperatures. However, later studies showed that the abscisic acid content of buds does not always correlate with the degree of dormancy. The onset of short day or long dark photoperiods in winter stimulates the synthesis of various growth inhibiting compounds of which abscissine dominates. Quantitative estimation by solvent extraction methods reveal that dormant buds contain greater amounts of abscisic acid than actively growing buds. Abscissine is a well-known growth inhibiting hormone. By inhibiting the synthesis of proteins, RNA and other metabolic processes, abscisic acid imposes dormancy on meristematic tissues of the plant body. The involvement of photoperiodic effect on bud dormancy indicates that the phytochromes have a role in imposing dormancy. Phytochromes are known to be present in plastid membranes and other surface membranes. It's also known that abscisic acid is synthesized and often stored in plastids. Phytochromes, by perceiving the changes in photoperiodic conditions, probably induce the synthesis of abscisic acid and also facilitate the release of abscisic acid. Then, abscisic acid is translocated to the buds where it brings about temporary suspension of metabolic activities and totally inhibits mitotic activity. The presence of abscissin second, which is also called dormin, has been detected from various plant structures involved in dormancy, for example, dormant potato tubers, birch leaves, etc. With this, we come to the end of this topic. Hope you have understood it well. See you next time with another topic. Till then, goodbye.